Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Arcadia Books, our new event, a conversation between Pam Houston and Ginger Gaffney. Jeez. All right, let's start over. Now, Ginger Gaffney. Pam is the author of many books, most recently Deep Creek, which was one of my favorite books last year, a beautiful memoir. And she has a new book coming in October called Airmail, Letters on Politics, Pandemics, and Place, which she's co-written with Amy Irvine. And she threatened to out me if I didn't say this. I took a fantastic generative writing workshop with her last week via her organization, Writers by Writing by Writers. I'm going to shoot myself. All right, and Ginger Gaffney lives in New Mexico. She's been training horses for 27 years. She received her MFA from the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, and her powerful and really moving memoir, Half Broke, is her first book. And so Ginger and Pam know each other well, and they're going to just chat back and forth and read a little bit, and then by the end of the evening, they'll take some questions from you, and Nancy will be sort of following the questions, and I think Pam and Ginger will be able to see them too. So if you have questions, send them in, and now, blessedly, I'm going to shut up. And thank you very much, Pam and Ginger. We're delighted that you're here. Let's let it rip.
Thank you, James. And thank you, Arcadia Books, for having me back and having Ginger. We were really hoping to be there together in person in April, I think it was. The months are blurring together. But this is the next best thing. And we're happy to see you. I have already read from Deep Creek at Arcadia, happily, last summer when things were better and the theater was alive, and we could all press our faces together for photos and things like that. So I'm not going to take up too much time because I want you guys to get to know Ginger and get to know her beautiful book. Though I'm sure there are some people here who were not at my reading last summer. There was a drink invented for me at the bar where I gave my reading. I can't remember what it was called. I can't remember. It was a great name. I have it written down somewhere, but I didn't look it up before this. And I don't even drink, but I had one because after all, it was invented for me and I felt like I should. I had such a warm welcome there in Wisconsin, and I hope to come back another day. But anyway, my book, Deep Creek, Finding Hope in the High Country, I wrote it as a kind of honoring of this piece of land that I have had the good fortune to live on for now 27 years. I had written a lot of fiction and one book of essays, but my editor at W.W. Norton came to me and said, you know, we'd like you to go on a book-length adventure and write about it. And I thought really hard about book-length adventures. I'm kind of an adventuring sort, and I love adventuring. So I thought, well, maybe I'll sail the whole coast of Turkey, or maybe I'll mush dogs to a pole or something. Like, I was up for a lot of adventures, especially the kind that the publisher would pay for. But then I was driving home from where I teach sometimes in Davis, California, home to the ranch, to my 120 acres here in the Colorado high country. And the dogs were happy because they knew we were going home, and we were stopping and taking walks up on the Forest Service roads and over on what I think of as the leashless side of the Sierras. And I just realized as we were literally on a walk down a dirt road, oh wait, I'm already on my book-length adventure. My book-length adventure began 27 years ago, at that time about 20 years ago, when I paid 5% down on 120 acres with a little house and a pretty old barn at 9,000 feet in Colorado. And I only had 5% down because I was a graduate student and I was only making $4,500 a year. And I had sold my first book, Cowboys Are My Weakness, and I had been paid $21,000 for it. So that was it. That was the 5% down. I was so afraid to cash the check because my agent had said, don't spend this all on hiking boots. And so I didn't cash the check. I was literally a graduate student. I was kind of done with graduate school, which is another story, but I was living in my Toyota Corolla and my North Face VE24 tent, and I had my check for $21,000, and I went driving all over the West looking for a place to do something other than blow it all on hiking boots. And I came here to Creed and found this ranch, this 120 acres of high mountain meadow with 12,000 foot mountains all around it. And I saw a bunch of realtors that summer giving readings at small independent bookstores, which has always been my bread and butter. Long live the independent bookstore. They were the ones who sold Cowboys, and they're the ones who sell all my books. So I gave readings at independent bookstores, and then I let realtors take me around and show me property. That was kind of how I spent my summer. And I got here, and the realtor that brought me to see this place, this ranch, that my $21,000 represented 5% down on. He said, you know, the widow who's selling that ranch, Donna Blair, she's going to like the idea of you. So why don't you give me your $21,000 and a signed hardcover copy of Cowboys Are My Weakness, and I'll go see what I can do. And Donna Blair sold me the ranch for 5% down and a signed hardcover copy of my first book of short stories, thereby changing my life forever. And I bought the ranch because it was an adrenaline rush to buy it. I bought it because I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the physical beauty of it. It was, you know, either the stupidest or smartest thing I'd ever done, like most big things in life. And so I've been here for 27 years. It grew me up, taught me how to be responsible, taught me how to care for animals, large animals and small animals. Taught me how little I know about so many things. But it also gave me a place to feel safe, which I'd never had in my life. And it gave me a place from which to go out into the world and do my teaching and make my art. And it was, you know, it became the story of my life. There's a line in the intro that says, I don't know when, you know, somewhere the thing that I was always trying to pay for, which God knows was true, as you can imagine. If I only put 5% down, you know, somewhere it stopped being the thing I was just trying to find a way to pay for, and became the story of my life. And that's what it's been. And so this book is that story. It's the story of the 20 something years. It has a lot of animals, a lot of beautiful animal births, and a few sad animal deaths. It has the 2013 fire, which was the largest fire in southwestern Colorado's history, the West Fork fire that came very close to the ranch. It had a land grab by a strange house sitter and some other house sitters that performed a weird bacchanalian ritual in the middle of the night and slaughtered my sheep. But it's also just got like the basics of ranch living, like baling hay and chopping wood and birthing lambs and waiting for the return of the bluebirds and watching the meteor showers and all the great things that being here has been. So I'm just going to read literally a page of it. And then I'm going to read something new that Ginger asked me to read. But they are both horse related because we are here tonight in celebration of the horse. I will tell you that Ginger is the most amazing horsewoman. I mean, she's an amazing writer, and she was also my student at IA, and I was her mentor for the early stages of the book. So I'm deeply committed to Ginger as a writer, but she's also the most amazing horsewoman, and I'll let her tell you about that. But so I'm reading horsey things tonight, 2 short horsey things. And this is a very short moment of Deep Creek, called Carving Rivers. Today, I'll spend 3 hours carving rivers through ice with a pointed shovel and a maul. And by the day's end, I'll have the blisters to prove it. It's to do with Deseo, that's my Pasifino, my horse, one of them, who finds all manner of things scary and off-putting. Purple buckets, flapping jackets, the wind whispering through the pines. The trough where the horses drink in winter is at the end of the pasture where all the water from the snowmelt drains toward Lime Creek. The trough is there because that's where the frost-free hydrant is, and the frost-free hydrant is there because it's the closest point to the house from which the water originates. The longer the line from the house to the frost-free hydrant, the higher the chance of the system freezing, and then we go back to hauling water again. Unfortunately, when we get to the freeze and melt portion of the winter, which can last from early March to mid-May, a pond develops around the trough, which turns into a skating rink every time the temperature dips below 30, which is to say, every single night. And to Deseo, a skating rink surrounding a horse trough might be the scariest thing of all. When Deseo doesn't drink, his metabolic condition gets worse. When he refuses to cross the ice, I carry a bucket of water out to him. Sadly, then, the bucket becomes the object of his fear. I can leave it on the ground and walk away to prove it is neither strange nor alive. I can float little bits of carrots on the surface of the water to make it more enticing. I can even get on my hands and knees and pretend to slurp some of the water up into my mouth myself. But he simply won't have it. He feels there is only one designated safe place to drink in this pasture, and that is the water trough now booby-trapped by a non-negotiable platform of ice. So I wait until the temperature crawls above freezing, about noon, and head to the pasture with my tools. The sun has felt truly warm all week, but this ice that formed on the bottom of what used to be deep snow has had a good 4 months of sub-zero to harden. I jump up and down as hard as I can and kick at it with my steel-toed boots and about detach my arms from my shoulder blades, wielding them all over my head to shatter the surface. This part is fun, how it must feel to break a car's windshield. Once pits and cracks begin to form, I dig little tributaries into the ice with the tip of my shovel. In about 30 minutes, it has warmed up a few degrees and I get a satisfying little trickle to flow downhill out of the skating rink, around the trough and into the yard. I hack some more. The thermometer ticks up another degree and the water does what water does best, gives into gravity. I follow it, assisting with a few hacks of my shovel all across the front of my property. Before too long, I have the world's smallest river flowing from the bottom of my pasture all the way across the yard and into Lime Creek. I watch the creek water tumble toward the Rio Grande, imagine it running past the town of Creed and then through Wagon Wheel Gap, down the canyon and across the San Luis Valley, through the box near Taos, eventually forming the border between Texas and Mexico and flowing into the Gulf. I am filled with a completely disproportionate sense of satisfaction. For a second, I understand why those guys were crazy enough to think they could build the Panama Canal. I return to the trough and hack my way to another tiny river and then another one, learning quite a bit about the various properties of water and ice in the process. Once I get the little rivers started, for instance, they deepen and widen and hasten on their own, just like I learned in geology class. 2 cubic feet per second turn into 20 with a little more sun and a little more coaxing. In 3 hours, I have 10 outlet rivers carved into the ice surrounding the trough, and I'm starting to develop blisters on my blisters. But the sun is still up and snow is in the forecast, and I love my old nervous horse. So I cut 5 more rivers around the far edges of the ice, just in case the pond gets even bigger.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of Deep Creek. And then this new thing is just a short letter. It's a letter that I was asked to write for an anthology called Letters to a Stranger. And the idea behind the assignment, and I love an assignment, I'll just say that. The idea behind the assignment was like, it was someone that you saw in passing, but didn't really know. but they struck you in some way, and so you wrote a letter to them. Dear 20-something, excuse me. Dear 20-something German woman who was helping the Icelanders bring the sheep down the North Valley above Lagerflat on the night before the Retir at Melleret Flatsdal. Just if anyone in this room speaks Icelandic, I'm just going to say I'm sorry once and move on. To begin, I must admit I am no one you know and ask you to excuse my forwardness. I am a 57-year-old American woman who visited Iceland this September, and I happened to be at Absgattur when you and the men came riding down the dirt track in the North Valley, pushing ahead of you 1,500 sheep. You had come all the way from Lagerfell Hot Springs, a distance of more than 20 kilometers, gathering sheep from the highlands along the east side of the Jokulsa River. I was on foot when you arrived, high up on the side of the hill, helping the men who, together with their sheepdogs, were pushing the sheep you were driving down along that final fence, the one with the big pens at the bottom, where they'd stay overnight, packed in like sardines and bleeding like crazy until tomorrow when you and the others would move them on down valley to the Retir. There is no English equivalent for the word Retir because it is both the name of the wheel made from wood or stone that holds hundreds of sheep in pie slice compartments and the name of the yearly event where farmers sort the sheep into that wheel, one pie slice per farmer. Retir means sheep party, one of the men I followed up the hillside had said. As I watched you dismount, sling your saddle off your horse's back and place it on the crossbar of a fence for airing, I guessed it was your second summer in Iceland. And also that there is a young man waiting for you back in Berlin who writes computer code and will one day have a very good job. Perhaps last summer you went home on the 15th of August so the two of you could have a Croatian holiday before you returned to university. And when you told him only a few weeks ago that this year you planned to stay in Iceland until the end of September, till after the secondary Retir where you and the men will pick up all the strays, there was silence on the line for a good 60 seconds before he said he was late to have a beer with his mates. Maybe if you were being honest with yourself, you would admit that you miss your Hanoverian gelding Till, a bright bay with high withers and a floaty extended trot just made for the dressage ring, more than your code-writing boyfriend. But these Icelandic horses with their stocky bodies, their get up and go, and their honest, ever-expanding hearts have gotten your attention, have made you forget a little, even Till. This summer, when you arrived, the farmer took you up to the wild herd and let you choose a 4-year-old gelding to train up by yourself, and you did. A flea-bitten gray with an unusually dark mane you named Naturhim, Nader for short, Icelandic for night sky. He was a good learner from the start, a horse prone to make the right decision. The trust built between you all summer long, but never more than this day of the gathering, tolting down the high sides of the valley shoulder to shoulder with a dozen men 3 times your age on horses they halter broke before the turn of the century. Nader followed those tried and true horses over ancient lava flows, leaping downhill over glacial erratics, dodging holes with a kind of intuition you'd never seen before, holes that would have snapped Till's long legs like matchsticks. Together you were tireless, up and down the valley wall, finding the strays and loners who hid in the crags and steeps or wandered up and over the top and into the highlands where they would never survive the winter. Nader never shied nor stumbled, not when a particularly defiant ewe mock charged him, not even when the caribou yearling, most likely abandoned by his mother and hanging with the ewes and lambs for the summer, came galumphing down the hill beside you, insisting that wherever those sheep were going, he was too. Don't think it hasn't occurred to you to put Nader on a boat and take him back to Berlin and straight into endurance training. But then you think about the long, hot German summer, the stall he'd be forced to stand in every day, and how even if you could find a good turnout situation, he'd never graze again along a glacial-fed river or fill his lungs with this crystal air or doze under the northern lights, his legs tucked under him like a deer. As you ate the bread and apples the farmer's wife brought out, as you took the mandatory shot of Brennivin, you kept your eyes on Natur, checking for lameness, making sure he was cooled down. Then you were up and moving toward the sheep pen, the first one over the fence, shushing them toward the chute, moving half of them to the lower pen so they would have a place to lie down tonight, enough room to turn around. Panicked lambs bleated for ewes and vice versa, and you moved with the wave of them, advancing and receding, resisting and capitulating. You knew some half of these lambs would go to slaughter, but not tonight, not tomorrow. This is how the world feeds the world, you thought. 4 solid months of bliss up in the highlands, and then everything changes. You too were changing. The air in the pen prickled with the change. Even the men who'd been so cool all day, who wouldn't answer any of your questions except in Icelandic, who were simultaneously chaffed and impressed that a girl could keep up, could hang in, could not lose her seat or her temper or her mind going up and down those steeps all day. Just you and Nader, one body, moving a lot of other bodies, food for the family, home and safe for the winter, more lambs the next spring. Even those men were tired and impatient, but not you. No, you had burnished roses in your cheeks, the pure joy that came with 20 miles of hard riding in wild and clean terrain, with a job well done in a centuries-old tradition that by some twist of fate, you'd been allowed to fully participate in this country that sits in the place where the North American tectonic plate and the European tectonic plate are pulling apart from each other at the rate of 18 centimeters per year. There you were saying shush, shush, shush to those sheep in the pen, alive in every cell and as beautiful a human being as I have ever seen. You had a star inside your chest and it was glowing like a supernova. Your heart had expanded to the size of an Icelandic horse's named after the night sky, or a spring lamb's set out to pasture with her twin sister and her mom, the whole summer ahead to look forward to. I am writing you now because you may have not known how wondrous you were in that moment. My hope is that you will take that day into consideration as you make decisions about how to live your life. Sincerely, Pam Houston.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Oh, I love that one. Oh, thank you, Pam. I love that one. I think you read that first at an Institute of American Indian Arts, and I was sitting there going, "Oh my God!" And I didn't know that it was just a passing person. I thought it was somebody you had met. So what an amazing, beautiful story. And I asked Pam to read that because I needed to hear it again. So anyhow, thank you all for being here. Thanks for having us. We were really wishing I got to meet you all. We were supposed to be there, and we had some really wonderful women post us on Facebook from your area. So we both, Pam did it by herself, and I did it. We did a Facebook book club with maybe about 35, 40 women, and so they were also people from your community. Maybe some of them are here tonight. But so we didn't get to be at the bookstore, but I feel like I've gotten to meet some of your community, and that's really been wonderful. So I feel like the book's been really well received, and my book has been really well received in your area. Half Broke is published by Norton as well. And I'll say a few things. Pam was my mentor through my MFA. She was my thesis advisor, and I had her primarily as a teacher. People say they hear Pam Houston in my book, and nothing makes me happier because I'm one of her big fans. Her writing has always been a big inspiration to me. And when the book got close to being finished, I actually went and did a workshop. It was a book length workshop. Then Pam taught that, and there were 6 other writers in the class, and we all worked on our book length book. So that was a really turning point in the book, because for me it was a deadline. As Pam says, she needs things. I need deadlines, and it was a November deadline, and I had so much going on in my life, lots of loss, lots of things changing, but I sat myself down and met that deadline for the Writing by Writers, a manuscript boot camp. I think that was November, I don't even know, 2017, I think. And come that spring, my book was ready to go out, and that's when Norton picked it up in June. So anyhow, as a writer, you have to, as a human being, I'm always grateful for my teachers and how one gets a book published. I would have never known the process, but Pam's really helped me walk through that process. And Writing by Writers has really helped my writing in general. So I can't say enough about that program. And of course, Institute of American Indian Arts is an amazing MFA program, and I'm so grateful I got to go. So a little bit about the book. I wrote it over a 3-year period. I've been training horses for 27 years now, and about 6 years ago, I got a call from a ranch that's right across the river from me. And it was a crazy phone call. I didn't know who they were, and it was really loud. They were in the kitchen. I found out they were having dinner, and two women were on the line, and they were telling me about horses that were acting incredibly dangerous and chasing them after breakfast, lunch, and dinner when they took the trash out. There was an injured person, there was an injured horse, and could I come over and help? And I found out pretty quickly that it was this 17-acre ranch across the river that is the Delancey Street Foundation Ranch. And it is an alternative prison environment where people are resentenced there from jail, but also from prison. So there's plenty of people that are federal, felons there, as well as people who have multiple drug and criminal records. So it's kind of a last chance ranch. It's been going on since the 70s here in New Mexico, and it started in San Francisco. It's the only place that Delancey Street has a rural operation, and so that all makes sense when it comes to the horses, because not much was known about how to handle horses. I walked into a situation where there's a lot of horses that were extremely dangerous, and also human beings that were really troubled and had really tough stories. I spent the first couple months just trying to get the horses to be able so that people could handle them, and I did a lot of the early handling and getting them gentled. And over the years now, they're gentle, they're riding them, and they have a whole horsemanship program. People tend to think it was like an equine therapy situation. For me, it was I went in as a horse trainer. I didn't think about equine therapy as a thing because I'm not a counselor. In the end, I believe that's really what we did for each other, and I don't think it was a one-way street. I think in the book it's clear that I was as much helped from them and their life experience, and it grew me as a human being more than anything has in my whole life, except for my experience with horses, which grow me every day. I want to read a little bit. It's a chapter called Broken. It was first in a small animal. It was called, I forget where it was placed, but I first got it set in some magazine, and then it's been revised. But I want to tell you, the person in the story's name's changed, of course. But I just want to say before I read it that he's doing really, really well now. Joey, as what I call him in the book, he's working full time. He was somebody I just didn't think was really going to make it, and I was always surprised at what people who made it and what people didn't make it. It always surprised me. But he was really a fragile character when I first met him, and this is towards the end of the book. When I first meet him, it's like in the last third, and it's called Broken. So I'm going to read it so we still have some time for questions and stuff. Joey trembles as he greets me. As I reach out for his hand, the quivering of him races up my arm. His sentences are run-on, out-of-breath monologues. He tells me he has 6 months on the ranch, 3 years before that in prison, and 2 more to go to fulfill his term. He asks me if I think he can learn how to care for the horses. Luna is not a beginner's horse, and that's the horse Joey chooses. Mostly she trusts Tony and Randy, but even they have some difficult days with her. Luna is the one horse we still can't ride. She won't let us saddle her, and putting anything over the area where she broke her nose sends her into a tantrum. I know Joey feels a sense of closeness to her, a desire to care for Luna. Just about everyone wants to help her. Most of the time, Luna's not interested. We need the help, I tell Joey. Will you take it slow and see how it goes? I show Joey the curry comb. It's a large, round metal comb with a wooden handle. The bottom ridges will scratch away the dust embedded in Luna's black and white coat. I place it in his hand, lay my hand on top of his, and start to groom. We make swirling circles across her chest, belly, top line. I stand behind him, close. Our bodies touch like dancers. We move along her curving spine down to her rump, parallel with Luna's powerful body. Joey is just a few inches away from her. I can feel the rise and fall of his breath on my chest. I give him directions. Take your time, Joey, I encourage. The one thing Luna likes is a good scratch. Luna exhales and blows out through her nostrils. Tiny droplets of misty snot hit the pipe corral fencing and give a faint ring like a faraway bell. Joey stops for a moment. He checks Luna's eyes. They are shut. She is in the standing up resting place. Joey sits at his desk in front of the phone lines every day. Hello, this is DH Ranch. Can I help you? Under the desktop, his legs bounce up and down. His heels tap in rapid fire. His head scans left to right as he chews and snaps on a small piece of gum. The phone job is teaching him how to talk to people, to care about others. Can you hold, please? I will get you that information. He takes a long exhale after each call. Audible sighs heard across the room. In between calls, he holds his breath and bites his nails. Many of the people on this ranch started using drugs in high school and never graduated. Their addiction took over before most of them ever held a job. During the first 6 months on the ranch, the residents focused on life skills, how to greet and speak with each other respectfully, how to dress in public, basic hygiene protocols, being on time for work. Joey hasn't made much progress. He tries but rarely meets my eye when he speaks. His hair is cut short but never combed. He dresses in baggy, oversized clothes most days when he comes down to livestock. His parents abandoned him and all his younger siblings when he was 12. He had no role models, no one to show him what the rules were and how to live by them. Joey grabs a hairbrush and pulls on Luna's mane. He picks up the hair conditioner and works it into his palm, spreads it with his fingers between the twisted knots tying up her long, white hair. He reminds me of a father readying a daughter for school. He works the knots out one by one, holding down their roots with his other hand. He is worried he might be pulling too hard. Luna stands perfectly still. She cocks one leg and moves her mouth in a circle. Joey lifts her hooves. She bends her knee and flips her leg into the air, offers her body to him. He picks at the rocks and clay caked into the crevices. He inspects each hoof, then places them back down. He takes a soft brush from the grooming box and starts his deliberate journey across his body. Joey has ulcers high up into his chest. He eats small meals, half a peanut butter sandwich, snacks on cookies all day, carries their crumbles in his pockets. He is alone. His parents are gone to addiction. His siblings are either in jail or are using. He is illiterate, even though he is in his late 20s. Eliza helps him with reading on Tuesday nights in the library. He wants to pass his GED. He would be the first in his family. Joey leans against the top rail of the round pen as Tony takes Luna by the lead line and places her in the round pen. Joey shrugs his shoulders. Luna roams around the pen. She's distracted, alone. The rest of the horses are turned out to the pasture. Go ahead and jump in, Tony says. Jump in and work with her. Tony's trying to be helpful, but Joey doesn't budge. Joey moves away. He walks over to the cottonwood tree, plants himself beside it, looking away from Luna. Tony shakes his head, then turns and heads off to get Hawk. I'm over by the pipe corral fence, trimming Willie's hooves. Bent over, I observe Joey from my upside-down view. His body has that downward slump that says he wants to fold into nothingness. His legs are spread, shoulders hunched. His head is tipped to the left. He looks like the eternally disappointed child. What he wants most is in that round pen, but he has no idea how to get it. Joey wants to be close to Luna, loose inside the pen, but he needs support. Luna stares at Joey's back. She tries to smell between their bodies but can't grasp the scent. He's too far away. She waits for some movement. I can see she wants his body to turn, to move an inch, to show some sign of life. The emptiness of him confuses her. Ears pricked forward, chest pressing against the tails of the rails of the round pen. She is transfixed by Joey's disappearance, his body becoming a hollow shell. Horses look for life in a body. Our outer shell is rigid, but on the inside we are like water, continually fluid. Animals feel the absence of that flow, the stagnation, the crippling depth of no motion. Everything is movement to a horse. Everything has current. The smallest ripple has so much to say. Luna stares across the short distance, watching a body that has no life. I finish with Willie, put him back up in his corral. Skidding past Joey, I can feel the brush of air between us and imagine he can too. I know not to pull or push on him. I know this will only shut him down further. Luna breaks her gaze from Joey and meets me by the round pen gate. She stands a few feet away. I wish she would move closer. I raise my hand and reach out to scratch her neck. Don't touch. She pins her ears and backs away. Wanting anything from Luna sends her into retreat. I put my arm back down. She returns, just close enough to wave her nostrils in and out to take in my scent. Joey pads across the dirt driveway and comes up behind me without a sound. I feel him on my back. He's waiting for me to notice him. And why won't he speak? He haunts me when he leaves his body like this. I want to shake him, rattle his shoulders, ask him what he needs. But I know better. I don't turn around. Luna shifts her feet, slants her body in his direction, ears pushed forward, one blue eye, one brown eye, both are on him. I want to go inside the pen, Joey says. Do you want me to stay? I ask. Yeah. Luna's half broke. She lets us groom her mane and tail, clean her hooves and trim them. She allows Tony and Randy to halter her in her corral, but no one else. A few weeks back, when Tony was leading Luna into the round pen, she turned and swiftly kicked him on the side of his rib cage, just above his hip, and set him skidding sideways. He was black and blue for over a week, but no broken ribs. She's a hard one, just like us. Tony has said this many times. I'm not sure Luna will ever let her guard down. I've met a few other horses like her over the years, horses who hold on to their sovereignty. They will never let the trainer take full control. It is a hard thing to learn how to do, to leave some power in the hands of an animal. I met a horse a lot like Luna in 2008 when I went to Raleigh, North Carolina to teach a horsemanship clinic. Her name was Coco, a young warm blood mare, 6 years old, whose owner was a fox hunter. There were 12 women in the clinic and everyone wanted a private lesson, and that meant, I taught each rider privately, no one standing around watching. That wasn't true when Coco entered the arena. Her owner led her through the gate with a crowd of interesting spectators following behind. Coco was already high on adrenaline. Her knees bounced off the arena footing like balloons, hopping and lifting her front legs into the air. She was saddled and bridled with the reins not yet over her head. Her owner pulled on the reins, trying to keep Coco from leaping on top of her. Are you going to ride her first? Her owner asked. I laughed so hard that my microphone squealed. The crowd joined in the laughter. Coco's owner was confused. She had asked a serious question, the only one she knew to ask. Can someone bring me my rope, halter, my lunge rope, please? I directed toward the crowd. Then I went to work, trying to keep Coco's feet on the ground. She seemed like a joyful mare when I first met her. But as soon as I asked her to put her left front leg there and her right hind leg here, her ears flipped back, her lips peeled open, and she charged me with her teeth. I jumped to the side, avoiding a strike, and kept up my business of putting her hooves where I wanted them to be. It was clear why Coco had drawn a crowd. She wasn't going to give me anything for free. I whistled carefree into the mic, ignoring the hostile look on her face. I spun my lead rope around her flanks, upward toward her rib cage near her shoulder, each time asking her to put her hooves in a specific place, a thing so simple, most horses agree and abide quite quickly. But not Coco. Those were her feet. her only chance to protect her authority. They were her main tool for flight, for safety and food, and for all the other necessary things in a horse's life. No, I could not have her feet. If I was in front of her, she would lunge at me with her mouth. If I was behind or beside her, she'd fire and try to land a kick. I worked her for almost 2 hours each day until she attempted to give me at least half of what I was asking. And by the third afternoon of the clinic, I had Coco standing still to be mounted, jumping 3-foot fences and walking quietly through a grassy field, 3 things she had never done in her life. Her owner was giddy with excitement over the progress. I still don't know how you did it, she said to me on that last day. And I said, I made a deal with her. I told her where I wanted her to go and then let her choose how fast she wished to get there. I only took half of her freedom away. Joey climbs through the rails of the round pen. He has his white high-top sneakers on, black jeans 2 sizes too big with a rope tied around the waistband and a bright yellow hoodie rolled over his head. Luna spins away when he enters and sets herself against the opposite wall parallel to Joey. I watch them from the outside of the pen. The wind picks up a dust devil and spins itself around us. Dust, manure, and small pebbles clink against the rails. Luna startles, Joey, nothing, not even the slightest flinch. I close my eyes. The dust stuffs itself up my already dried out sinuses. I scratch away the dirt stuck inside the corner of my eyes and wipe my lips clean of grit. When I open my eyes, Joey looks like a stone. I'm going to wait and not say a word. Joey will ask for what he needs when he's ready. I know that about him now. Luna lengthens her neck toward the ground. It arches defiantly. She is not interested in eating. She throws her left front hoof into the air, smacks it into the ground, and starts pawing. Is she mad? Does she want him out of there? Snort. A gruff, blunt blow from Luna's nostrils, and her neck straightens. Her head raises. She twists towards Joey, expectant. She wants him to move. She wants him to be alive. She picks up her left hock and bends it underneath her body, turning her left hip off to the right, perpendicular now to the rail. She faces Joey straight on. She has that worried look again. She's concerned about the lifeless man in front of her. She takes a step forward right at him. They are 30 feet apart. Joey backs up. His butt hits the rail. He stumbles. Luna stops. He moved. He's alive. What does she want? Joey asks. She wants you to move. Luna has on her purple and red halter. She's had it on for a little over a year. She won't let us take it off, and I decided maybe that was best. Who knows? If we take it off, we may never get it back on. Go somewhere. She doesn't know what you are. You have to move. Joey walks off to the left, staring at the ground. With his yellow hoodie and black pants, he looks like a giant yellow-headed blackbird inching his way around the pen. His white sneakers scuff to orange as he shuffles, not much bend to his knees. He drags his legs along like ancient walking sticks. Luna turns on her haunches. Her ears are darts that follow Joey around the pen. She is fine with Joey doing all the work. She pivots easily, like a coach studying her player, critical and assessing each mechanical movement, his breath becoming short and fast, his right toe stubbing the dirt harder than his left arm swinging half the distance of his right. As he passes me, I can see he feels ridiculous. He rolls his eyes up to his brow and pinches his lips downward. He wants to touch her. He wants to touch her, to hold the intimacy he feels when he grooms her. He wants her close, but if he advances, she will run. Her first instinct to flee from humans still works in her favor. Joey looks up from under the hoodie. 3 of his doormates are cruising by, and it's obvious he feels embarrassed. He looks back down. Hey, E, what you doing, dude? Playing Ring Around the Rosie? They laugh. Joey doesn't look up, says nothing. He's getting anxious, holding his breath, wagging his torso back and forth as he walks away from the guys. I can hear him mumbling under his breath. From around the corner, the cottonwood tree, the ranch dogs come sprinting, barking and chasing 4 wild kittens underneath the old chicken coop. Luna flies across the pen, and Joey darts away from her. Tony and Randy run over and pull off the dogs. They take them back to the dining hall to pen them up. Joey walks up to the rail that faces the dilapidated coop just a few feet away from the round pen and calls for the kittens. We have been trying to catch them for weeks, their mother no longer around. Kitty, kitty, Joey sings. He has forgotten all about Luna for a moment as he calls out to the kittens. Here, kitty, kitty. I walk around the outside of the pen, close to the chicken coop. Luna takes a few steps towards Joey as he continues his song. Kitty, kitty, kitty. The kittens come out from under the coop, four black and white and one with black socks. Luna has moved in closer to see them. She is about 5 feet behind Joey with her neck pushed forward and her haunches bunched up underneath, ready to spring back in reverse if necessary. She reaches her neck over the top rail and stretches down to touch the kittens. Joey turns his neck halfway. The corner of his eye meets hers. He turns back to the kittens. They are curling their backs upward and scratching themselves on the fence posts down by his feet. Ginger, can you go get the cat carrier from the barn? He asks me. I head to the barn to find the carrier. It is stuck behind 2 dusty old saddles. Heading back toward the round pen, I see the backside of Luna and Joey standing right next to each other, staring down at the kittens. Joey bends down and reaches through the rail to pick up one of the kittens who is rubbing his little arching back on his leg. Joey turns and walks across the pen toward me. I have the carrier in my arms. Luna walks behind him. Her nostrils are back to work, poking her nose into Joey's arms, trying to get a good sniff. He hands me the kitten and chuckles. A sheepish grin covers his face as he turns and goes back for the other 3 kittens, with Luna in tow. All 4 kittens are in the carrier, purring, scratching, and crying. Joey goes to the center of the pen, and Luna follows. He takes his time, turns and faces her, reaches out to scratch her, and she stays. She drops her head. He removes his hoodie. He grooms her across the neck and up to her withers, using his nails to scratch the itch beneath her dirty coat. His face opens to a smile. His back is straight. He moves his arm up and over Luna's body without hesitation, like he's done this all his life. Can I take her halter off? Joey asks me. I hesitate with surprise. No, he can't take the halter off. We'll never get it back on, I say to myself. Anytime we move too fast toward Luna's face, she shies and whips her head around, often knocking a resident back and off their feet. I've been worried that one of these days she's going to really hurt someone. She has not forgotten her injury, guarding herself at all costs. Over the last year, we haven't come very far with Luna, and looking at her now, I wonder if this is the time to try something new. I don't want to rope her again. I look at Joey and Luna standing as a pair now. Well, maybe. Unbuckle the halter, slide it off her nose, but only partway, and then put it back on. I want to see how she'll do. Joey scratches Luna under the halter and behind her ears, where the hair is matted down into thick clumps. He lifts the noseband and scratches the bald space where the halter has rubbed the hair away. White flakes of dry, crusty skin flick into the air. Luna is rolling her tongue around in her mouth like a lollipop. She swallows. She yawns. She drops her head some more. Joey reaches for the brass buckle and pulls out the metal pin that locks it in place. He slides the noseband halfway off her face and then raises it again, buckles it. He looks at me. I nod, go ahead. He releases the buckle again, slides the noseband off Luna's face, and places the halter on the ground. The scar is now visible, 6 inches in a zigzag crack that goes from the middle of her nose to the corner of her left eye. Some hair has grown back, but it's spotty. Scar tissue fills in the blank spaces. Joey rubs her face with the blunt end of his fingertips, and Luna leans in, her head almost touching his chest. That's it. Yeah. Joey.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Anybody have any questions for us? Looked and see any.
I love the part where Luna starts following him when he's playing with the kitten.
Yes. Yeah, thank God for those kittens. They changed everything.
What made you,
Yes, anyhow, Joe's doing really well. I'll say that again. He's working as a lead chef down in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at a golf course where a number of graduates from my program are working. At probably 4 or 5 of the people that were in my horse program are all working at that country club down in Albuquerque, who's really supporting Delancey Street by hiring them. So.
what made you decide to trust him, to take let him act on the horse that way?
Yeah, I think every day I'm presented with this question of what is the horse ready for, and all the signals were there. You know, for Luna, she was signaling she was ready, and I had to get over myself. You know, I often have to take that chance, that leap of faith, and often when you're asking them to trust you, you have to take the leap of faith to trust them. It's like a daily event in my life. And so, and that when I let go and said, okay, I'm going to trust, I just had to read it. You know, Luna was showing me that she was ready, you know. And I
Oh, I'm sorry, but that was one of the things I was so moved by in the book,
had to,
was just your ability to read both the horses and the people. I mean, you just were able to observe so carefully and clearly helped them all so much. So
it was so fun to write the book. I've never had to slow down what I do for a living to such a slow pace to write it out. It was so amazing for me to write out my visual memories. And I have to tell you, it's made me like a better person and a better human being just to write, a better horse trainer, to write all that and spend so much time in that slow process of what I do every day and slowing it down and witnessing it. It's a beautiful part of writing that I was surprised by, you know, what it gave me.
that's great. Is there a, oh,
It's me.
that's you. Oh,
Hi. Hi. I was wondering if the book is all stories about the way the young, I guess it's all young men, or all men in this community have responded to these horses, or are there other things that they're doing in this place? And are all of your stories about their journeys to wellness?
Yeah, most of them are. There are some women. It's a co-ed facility. Most of the stories in the book are of that, but there is also quite a bit of backstory on me, you know, that I was sort of forced to write because I'm much better writing about the people on the ranch than about myself. So there's a good bit of me in the book. It's very concentrated around my life with horses and what I've learned from various horses. But I would say the majority of the book is how that first year when I first started over there, how it went. And it was pretty dramatic at first. The first 3 or 4 stories are just me trying to stay alive, not getting kind of crushed by some of these horses, and me trying to figure out how to work not just with beginners, but you know, people who've been incarcerated, who have a lot of anger issues, who have no sense of self-worth. So yeah, it was about me trying to figure out how to work with this whole group of folks. So.
And then did you have, I haven't read your book obviously, so in the book will we find that you have things in your past that particularly help you relate, and that's perhaps why it's called Half Broke?
That's
because
right.
It's relating to the people as well as the horses.
And myself.
And right. Yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I grew up an extreme introvert. I didn't speak till I was 7. And people and language terrified me. And I decided not to talk because it seemed like speaking was language was like a knife. It drew a lot of lines in my family. And so, and also I was for now, I would say I was gender fluid. I hadn't really a sense of my sex, who I was as a woman. And also I was queer. And those are all things that made me feel like the other in the world around me, not being a speaker, and that my gender fluidity was really confusing for me. So I felt pretty half broke most of the time, all the way into my 30s. And I couldn't really hold on to relationships or have much relationships with people. So when I started working over at the ranch, I was in a full career. I thought I was just flying along with my horse work. And then I met all these people who were working every day so hard to be the best human beings they could be. And it changed me. It made me look at myself in a way. And it would change, I think, anybody who would be spending time around them. It's just it's so monumentally influential working with people that's so much damage, have been so much damaged by their families, by poverty, by the prison system, and lots of issues there. So I don't know. I still feel that we always talk about, just getting to the pillow is one of the things they say every day over there. We're just going to make it to the pillow. And it was like a day by day event. And I started kind of living that way. And I worked at this horse farm. It was a very, very wealthy woman owned it. And I was living these two realities with this sort of really wealthy horse farm and going over to Delancey Street. And I was kind of getting battered in my brain about having to go back and forth. So yeah, a lot of that's in the book. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Swift
It
has a
made me
question.
want to know more.
Cool.
Ginger, Kim Swift has a question for you if you want to ask Kim.
Hi, Ginger.
Hi, Kim.
It's so good to see you. Yeah, hey, well, I have read the book, as you know. I was late tuning in tonight because I was busy wrestling my 4-year-old granddaughter and my brand new puppy. And as I sat down, you were saying I only took half of her freedom away. And I was just thinking about how that transfers to so many settings, and how when we think we want to tame something or someone, or make this little 4-year-old into a mature person someday, we want to take more than half of their freedom away, I think, sometimes. So I was just wondering if, when you wrote that line, if you thought about it more than in the sense of working with horses, but with people too, especially the people at Delancey Street.
Yeah. So there's this thing we talk about in the horse world where we want to leave some of their instincts intact. We don't want to take out all their instincts. And I think when you're working with traumatized people, you have to leave a lot there and pick and choose what you can work on in a day, or what the horses can work on, what we can get, what they can get of value for themselves. And so a lot of things you have to let go, and so I feel that way a lot when I'm teaching. I try to leave the person intact and then try to shift one small thing and leave as much intact as I can, because this is a powerful thing. These kind of animals, any kind of animals working with people, it's an issues of power and of regaining power and feeling in some way in our bodies, not in our minds, but in our bodies, some level of power. And so, no, I think it's totally related to people. We have to stay intact. Our power has to stay intact. And so when I have to make shifts and changes, I'm always thinking, what do I want to keep? What do I want? What is good, and what do I want to keep?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Two more questions, and they can kind of be combined, I think, for you, Ginger. April would like to know how and from whom did you get your horse training background? And she's a fellow extreme introvert in an extrovert's world who's been saved by horses. And then Catherine would like to know what prompted you to get your MFA.
Training background in horses. I've studied with tons and tons of people, but we call natural horsemanship in the horse world, as well as some classical dressage. Most of my dressage comes from French dressage instructors that I got to study with after I did my natural horsemanship studies. So that's kind of the basics there. You know, I can go into it more, but I don't know. When I went to, it's my partner, Glenda, you know, I was in this point in my life where I had been working at Delancey Street and at this other ranch, like I said, and Delancey Street the work at the Delancey Street had moved me so much, what I was doing there, that my other work with horses was feeling a little less than. I wasn't as passionate as I had been. It was starting to fade away, and I've always written, and I love poetry, and I was really looking to just to keep my life force up, and I wanted to. So she was like, "What about writing? What about writing?" And I'm like, "I'm not a writer, you know, no." And then a friend of mine, Christina Maroney, who's also a horse person and a writer, she was telling me about the Institute of American Indian Arts and the MFA program, and I didn't think they were going to allow non-native people in. But they do allow a small percentage. Pam would know how many, but it was really me going after like keeping my life force going, you know. Like I think when you get into your 50s, and pretty much Delancey Street made me feel that way. I knew I was onto something really powerful, and I just wanted to keep feeling it. And you know, I didn't know I was going to get in the program because I didn't think I was a writer. And I wrote the first chapter of the book before I got into the program, and I sent it off, you know, not knowing anything, sent it off to Witness Magazine, with Black Mountain Institute, and they picked it up and it told me like within 2 weeks I heard they were going to publish it, which really helped me because I'm not a very confident person, especially with things that new, but I really love new things. And right now as a writer, one of the things I really want to be as a student. I love the feeling of being a student at IAIA. And so I kind of want to hold on to that feeling because it gives me that life force that I'm talking about, that I'm not finished here. There's so much to get from writing. So I feel like it's going to be the rest of my life as a student, as a writer. And that's a good feeling you can publish a book and still feel like you're a student. I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. But thanks for that question.
Okay, I think that's, yeah.
Probably good.
Yeah, but Pam and Ginger, thank you so much. Both of the books are so beautiful and so powerful, and they've stayed with me for a long time. And I'm just really proud of having you both here. And Pam, thank you for coming back, and thank you for the workshop last week. It really was fabulous. And so it's just, it's just been a real honor for us to have the both of you. And thanks for just the great sharing of your lives with so many of us. So,
yeah.
Anything else? Any last comments? Nothing? No? Okay. All right. Thank you,
everybody. Thanks for coming. Enjoyed it.
See y'all soon.
Okay. Bye.
Oh, I know one thing I'll say. Can I do a commercial for my reading series?
Yeah.
Since we're all lifelong learners, and I am, and one of the great joys of, this very difficult time, as soon as we got home back in March, my partner at Writing by Writers, Karen Nelson, and I decided, like, how can we bring Writing by Writers online? And what we decided is that we had so many friends, teachers, faculty members who were having books coming out And of course, their book tours had been canceled. And because we love our independent bookstores infinitely and forever, and so much more than Amazon, who we don't love at all, we wanted to support them. And so we decided to have an every Thursday reading series where someone with a relatively new book out comes on the reading series. Ginger's been on it. And they read for a half hour, and then I interview them for a half hour, and then we take questions for a half hour. It's every Thursday night. And we've interviewed amazing people. We've interviewed Jericho Brown and Carolyn Forche and Paul Lisicki. Tomorrow night is Mark Doty with his new book on Whitman. Next week is Stephen Graham Jones with a horror book. That'll be new for me. The Only Good Indians, it's called. And I'm not a horror reader, and because I have nightmares and stuff. So that'll be interesting. And we have wonderful poets coming up, and in the past, Terry Tempest Williams is on the horizon. So it's a wonderful series, and it's free, and all you have to do is RSVP like you probably did tonight, and you'll get the link. And you just go to the Writing by Writers, writingxwriters.org website. And there's also all the archives of all the previous readings. So it's just a wonderful thing, instead of watching Tiger, whatever it was that everyone was talking about for a minute. I forget what it was called because I didn't watch it, but whatever it was, you can hear people talk about trying to change the world and trying to live through this and trying to make it better. So, so come see us at writingbywriters.org on any Thursday night you would like.
Yeah, it's a great series. Yeah, please go. It's fabulous. So, okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you so much. So much. Take good care. Everybody take good care of themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Thank you. So
Thank
good
you.
to see you.
Bye, everybody.